Have you got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got a younger brother.
Does he drive you mad or does he not?
No, we get along fine.
They've always said for many years that I still have a child inside of me.
He really is one of the world's biggest jerks. On Ascension Day, when the rest of the royal family were quietly paying tribute to the late Queen Elizabeth II 3 years after her death, Prince Harry decides to make a sick dig at Prince William in front of very seriously ill kids after his return to the UK. You almost couldn't make this up. And of course, the mainstream media trying to say, oh, Harry's joke. Prince Harry jokes about challenging relationships between siblings at a charity bash amid feud with William. But we know there was no joke here. He knew exactly what he was doing when he quizzed Declan Bitmead, a 17-year-old, winner of the Inspirational Young Person 15 to 28 Years Award, about his family, and the teen replied he had a brother. Harry asked, "Does he drive you mad?" When Declan replied, "No, we get on fine," Harry, clearly not happy with that response, said, "You know what? Siblings." And when told his brother went to the same school, Harry said, "You're at the same school? That sometimes makes it more challenging." Get over it, you jerk. That is completely inappropriate. It absolutely proves why William is right that you should remain exiled and Charles should not be giving you a hearing at all. And effectively, Harry is now proving with this pathetic quasi-royal tour that he is just a big kid. As he actually admitted, by the way, in one of the Wellchild videos. Watch.
They've always said for many years that I still have a child inside of me.
I mean, yeah, you've still got a child inside. By the way, Woke ITV News, which is a propagandist for Harry, didn't include that full conversation in their report. I wonder why, but we did get to see the start of it. Watch.
Have you got brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got a younger brother.
Does he drive you mad or does he not?
No, we get along fine.
Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, joins me now. Brittany, I mean, this was, to me, such an embarrassing, mortifying, toe-curlingly cringe moment where he clearly thinks what he has done to William is some type of punchline that's going to secure him a cheap headline. Well, I'm sorry, if Charles chooses to meet with him this week after that, I, for one, Brittany, am going to be absolutely ropeable. Can you believe that more than half of you are watching this video but not subscribed? So please do me a huge favor. Click the subscribe button now. Turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all of our brand new Outspoken videos.
Yes, Charles, at this point, Dan, should just avoid Harry. Just avoid the man. He's not really living in reality much anymore. And when you actually look at that conversation, like, it is sort of natural to ask, if you have two boys of a certain age, you're like, do you get along well? Because sometimes siblings don't. But as soon as the kid said, oh, no, we get along great, Harry should have said, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's great to see. And what do you like or whatever? But Harry is so self-obsessed and he feels like and thinks that everybody experiences the world as he does, that he immediately goes further to try to say, well, siblings, it's tough and those sorts of things. I was like, well, it's tough for you, Harry, but other people, even children, are able to develop better relationships with their own sibling than Harry is as an adult. So you could say definitely that young man is more mature than the alleged prince who is interviewing him. So this whole cosplay royal tour thing is just ridiculous. It's just a farce. And it just goes to show that Harry, after 5 years, he still doesn't get it. He's not royal anymore. He needs to get a real job.
Absolutely. But I'm sorry, there's nothing funny about what he did to William. There's nothing funny about trashing your brother at a great height. And the fact that he thinks it's appropriate to make that the centerpiece of his big return to the UK shows that this is a completely despicable man. I mean, the propagandists were out in force, like Chris Ship from Woke ITV, who posted, "Have to say Prince Harry is always at his happiest when chatting to the staff and children at Wellchild. He looked relaxed and comfortable throughout the event. Here, he's in Nottingham tomorrow." Then look at him in Nottingham today, Brittany. I actually think this is probably one of the most offensive things he has done, because this is effectively a royal visit, a community royal visit to Nottingham. And of course, Brittany, what was the one thing that the late Queen Elizabeth II said that would be completely inappropriate, a half in, half out arrangement for Prince Harry. But he's putting on, his biggest charm offense of Britney. He's really trying to overshadow the other royals, undermine them. I think it's just so wrong. And again, I think this is why Charles should have nothing to do with it.
Yes. And when you're looking at this entire pseudo royal, weird royal tour thing Harry is doing, it's just something that the royal family just needs to be able to put the kibosh on in one way or another. I would say, again, they really need to look towards stripping the titles, because what Harry is doing is undermining the foundation of the monarchy by attempting to do the thing he was told he could not do. And he's not, it is hard. There's not a law against it or something like that. But if you strip him of his titles, you strip him of his place in the line of succession, he looks the fool that he is even more. And most people are catching on to this. And this charm offensive just really doesn't work, because this is basically Harry's recreating the job he left from the country he says he hates, basically. And so it's why is he even doing it? It doesn't even make any sense. And so Harry just needs to focus at this point on making money for Meghan Markle in California. I'm sure that's actually what she wants him to do. Harry's life in the UK, the way he knew it, is over. And it just looks like he is a man desperate to cling to the past because it's all he has, because his present is misery. And he's hoping if he reclaims something of his UK former glory, he'll get, I don't know, props, or it'll help his mental state or something. But the problem is his wife. That is his actual problem, and the one he's not dealing with.
100%. But Brittany, what he is also doing is cosplaying as happy. It is so obvious to anyone who has followed Harry over a number of years that he is a deeply unhappy soul. The reason that he's here doing this cosplay royal tour is because it's failed. The move to California has failed. And what we saw last night, and Brittany, I want us to go through and actually analyze this speech, okay? Because what we saw in Prince Harry's speech, which was broadcast in full on GB News, is him returning to all of his greatest hits. Because let me tell you, this tour is about trying to convince the British public, everything that Harry has been doing over the past 5 years, Brittany, has been for you. It has been for an American audience, well and truly.
Very true.
Today and this week is about trying to show Brits, actually, maybe we liked that guy. What was it about him that we liked? So Harry has to be very different to how he actually is now. That bitter, that miserable, that very negative person that we've seen in the BBC interview, that we've seen in the Oprah interview, that we've seen arriving into court. So what we got during the Wellchild speech was this, I believe, very fake and very forced effort to show Harry the happy-go-lucky prince with his sort of weirdly threatening jibes at the audience, which is something that he always did. But for the first time, Brittany, in this speech, and clearly this is something he was advised to do, he was self-deprecating for the first time in a very long time, and he actually made a dig about his hair receding. That's really interesting to me, because in the past, remember, William would joke about him being ginger, and then Harry's jokes were always about his receding hairline, and then he took it to a very dark place in Spare. But for the first time last night, with all of these sort of little digs at the crowd and, the old Harry back, we got the self-deprecation. I didn't buy it, but watch this, and Brittany, and then we'll analyze off the back.
Here with you all for the 20th Annual Wellchild Awards, generously supported by our friends at GSK, who have been remarkably quiet this evening. There we go. 3 tables, much quieter. You've now committed for the next 20 years. Congratulations and thank you. 20 years, that's quite something. Though looking around this room tonight, I think most of you are proof that Wellchild just keeps getting stronger with age. For 2 decades, this event has shone a bright spotlight on the needs of children and young people living with complex medical conditions. But more than that, it has celebrated something far bigger: your courage, your resilience, and the extraordinary love of the families and carers who never stopped showing up for you. I still remember my very first Wellchild Awards 18 years ago. Before a beard, I had hair. You know what it's like. And I walked into the room, and within about 3 minutes, I realized two things. The love and energy in the room was palpable, and so too was the unpredictability. And second, that I was completely hooked on it all. This night has been the highlight of my year ever since, and it's all because of you guys. These children, this cause, and our Wellchild community. Thank you for showing us the light when all too often darkness can consume us.
Brittany, I really felt like that was forced. Like he had been told, you've got to make some type of dig at yourself. You've got to show that you can be self-deprecating. Did you buy it?
I mean, I didn't really. And it makes sense, the passage of time. I'm glad he's finally realizing he's losing the hair on top because it looks pretty bad sometimes. But this is a Harry that is, again, desperately trying to reclaim some of that royal magic. And think about the event he's doing it at. An event for sick children who in some cases maybe have a terminal illness. And really, this is about promoting himself and making himself look good off the backs of sick children and this charity. And I find that to be something really, really despicable, regardless of what he says in the speech, because I'm sure he's pretty much very miserable behind the scenes. This is why he's doing this whole tour, is because his life in the United States hasn't really worked out the way he thought it would. He thought it would be this grand adventure and they'd be so successful and everything. And as it turns out, it's hard. He's basically been called dumb by one of the heads of Spotify. And so he doesn't have a purpose. He doesn't have a direction. I'm sure his wife is freaking out as her stuff collapses. And so he just doesn't have anything. And so to try to reclaim the royal magic again, I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it. He can make all the self-deprecating jokes about his hair that he wants to, but at the end of the day, he is decided to use sick children to promote himself, and I just find that to be abhorrent.
Yeah, I do too. And Brittany, it got worse. It actually got worse in the next part of the speech. Right near this little section, I want you to listen really closely because he talks about so much happening. And he says the world has thrown challenges, but he's not talking about these very, very seriously ill kids who are suffering, as are their parents, from one of the worst things you can go through. I mean, their disabilities are just so difficult to live with, Brittany. But he talks about so much has happened for me. The world has thrown challenges our way. What challenges, Harry? What the hell are you talking about? You live in a mansion in Montecito with 2 healthy children who you have decided to break off from the world. I really found this totally awful because the whole point of royalty, Brittany, is they talk about other people's problems, not their own. But Harry really struggles to do that. Watch this.
There's so much has happened since those early days, for me, for you, and for Wellchild. The world has thrown a fair few challenges our way. But through it all, Wellchild has remained rock solid in its mission to give children and young people with complex medical needs the chance to thrive. Not in hospital, but at home, surrounded by family, friends, and community. And the growth of this charity tells its own story. Since those early days, 311 Wellchild Award winners have inspired us with their bravery. And today, a 53-strong team of Wellchild nurses are out there making an enormous difference. Add to that a community of more than 3,600 families, plus support programs reaching even further, and you see the real impact of what has been built here. More than ever, Wellchild's mission must be our shared priority. Tonight, I'd ask each and every one of you to think about how you can play your part, whether through support, awareness, or action, like running a marathon. You're fully committed to that now. To help advance this crucial work.
Brittany, I mean, obviously there at the end, we get another one of those sort of blokey digs. I always find them a bit threatening, if I'm totally honest. And I think it shows how Harry is in his personal life, where he can be very nasty, actually, but he cloaks it in that sort of blokey humor. But that line at the start just disgusted me. So much has happened for me. And then he says, for you, the world has thrown challenges our way. How dare you? I mean, how dare you consider your challenges on the same level as these children who are struggling to live, and many of whom who will not survive, Brittany? But first, let's be honest, what passes for journalism today is little more than politically charged activism with a headline slapped on top. Truth gets buried under layers of spin, agenda, and algorithm-driven narratives. That's why I turn to Ground News. It cuts straight through the noise and shows you exactly what's happening. Ground News brings together headlines from over 50,000 sources across the globe, but what really makes it powerful is the transparency. You don't just see the stories, you see the political bias behind every source, the ownership ties, and the coverage breakdown across the spectrum. That's why over 1 million people have downloaded Ground News. Even the Nobel Peace Center praised it as an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. See for yourself at ground.news/outspoken. My favorite feature is the blind spot feed. It shows you which stories are blowing up on one side of the aisle, but barely mentioned on the other. It's the clearest way to see media bias in action. So here's an example of a story barely getting any traction on the right. Joe Rogan just accused the Trump administration of gaslighting its own supporters over the Epstein scandal. It's a rare moment of someone considered to be on the right openly calling out Trump's team in such blunt terms. And here's one the left is completely ignoring. Reports say Kash Patel discovered burn bags stuffed with classified documents tied to the Trump-Russia probe. In other words, there may have been a deliberate effort to destroy evidence, yet almost no one on the left wants to touch it. I wonder why. With every story, Ground News shows you the entire spectrum of who's reporting from left, right, and centre, and how reliable each source is. Also, importantly, who owns each outlet? It's everything the corporate press doesn't want you to see or know. And right now, you can get 40% off the Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access to all the features I personally use for just $5 per month. Just visit ground.news/outspoken, click the link in the description, or scan the QR code on screen. That's ground.news/outspoken. But now, back to the show.
When it comes to his life has changed in the last couple of years, oh, sure. You know, you can recognize that. I think that'd be perfectly fine. But he says the challenges that have been thrown our way. Well, Harry, 90% of the challenges he's faced are self-inflicted wounds. These are decisions has made that have backfired on him and his wife massively. How he has treated his family, how he has treated his country, how he left the royals and everything. All of that is self-inflicted, and Harry caused that. Harry is the one dealing with the fallout of his own choices there. These children, in comparison, are not at fault for what has happened to them. They've had genetic conditions. They've had, let's say, something come up in terms of a disability or something like that. It's completely different. Harry, all of his problems and challenges, he could have avoided if he had made some different decisions in life. Yes, we all have challenges that we face, but basically everything that's happened in the last 5, or you could say 7, 8 years, has been entirely Harry's decisions, or Harry and Meghan's decisions, and they are dealing with the reverberations of those decisions. You cannot equate what has happened with these families and the tragedies they have faced with what he has done to him, his family, and basically himself. And so for Harry, again, to make that comparison is really disgusting.
It was totally sick. Totally sick. This is how the speech wrapped up, Brittany.
I couldn't be prouder to see how far this charity Wellchild has come. I want to pay tribute to everyone who's made that journey possible. Gabby, I know you keep hiding in the corner, but you are instrumental to this. And of course, GSK, who are in this for the next 20 years, whose unwavering support has been there not just for this night, but for the charity's work as a whole. Thank you for standing with us shoulder to shoulder. And finally, to our winners tonight. This is your moment. While we reflect on 20 years of these awards, the truth is that you are the story. You are the reason that we gather here. Each of you is a beacon of hope and inspiration, not just to those in this room, but to the nation. Keep fighting, keep smiling, and above all, keep showing us what strength, courage, and joy really look like. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.
And what was interesting is that GB News, which broadcast that speech in full, actually had a panel of both sides of the political spectrum standing by to respond. And even the former Labour politicians on the left were brutal about it. Watch.
I was either rather depressed by it. It sounded like a sort of a fundraising speech at a Rotary dinner. I mean, you know, I'm with Badgett, you know, sort of the great constitutional expert who talked about sort of the mystery, or the mystique of the royal family. I would like to see a bit more dignity and a little less of that rah-rah and that sort of back and forth. I'm sorry, there was a complete absence of dignity and, if I may say so, an absence of any sort of royal presence there. I was embarrassed by it.
Really? And John, were you on the edge of your seat?
Well, there was no news content in it, and we all know what the news content could be. I mean, is he here with the approval of his father, the king, or is he not? And if he is here with the approval, why aren't we told that they're going to meet? And if he's not here with his approval, what exactly is he doing? Because I thought he said he wasn't going to carry on with royal duties in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I don't much care. What I do care about is that today is the anniversary of the death of the late Queen, who I think we all adored, and who was just such a model of what a constitutional monarch should be, and how we all miss her dignity, her distinction, her leadership, her focus of the emotion of the country.
Ask yourself, and all your thousands, if not millions of viewers should ask themselves the same question. Could you ever imagine Her Majesty, the late Queen Elizabeth, performing like that? Because that was a performance. There was no dignity, there was no style, there was, if I may say, no class about it.
Well, she wouldn't have done that at all. No, she was always thoroughly prepped and prepared.
Yeah.
She knew exactly all the circumstances and made sure that her words did not offend anybody. If you ad-lib too much, you could suddenly say something far too exciting, and then there would be an explosive news content, which they didn't want.
Well,
And Brittany, I actually thought that criticism was totally fair, and it shows the difficulty that he's in.
He's in a no-win scenario. And of course, he's created this for himself, 150%. But he doesn't really know how to be royal anymore in a lot of ways. And he's not. He left. And that he's continuing to try to recreate this is just simply embarrassing. He's like pantomiming a job. This is like if you left a job and still were trying to like go into the office the next day, even though you were kicked out or left or whatever. This is what Harry's doing. And if we saw this in the normal world, we would call it out for the craziness that it is. And it's crazy. It's delusional. It looks like Harry's disconnected from reality and the mistakes that he's made. And he can't just walk in there and just act like nothing's happened and try to just re-grab all of this stuff. He's left. He doesn't have the dignity, I think, and the protection of the institution anymore. And if you notice in that speech, you know, he talks about these children and the challenges and everything that they've had, but I can't name any of them because he didn't spend that speech really to highlight them and what they're doing and share their names or maybe an anecdote that he knows from their story or something like that. That would push the attention back to the children. But Harry, because he's become such a divisive figure, even in an alleged charity moment, it's all about him. And this is why he should step down from so many charities, because his reputation is so bad. Anytime he tries these kind of things, everybody's looking microscopically at everything, and it takes away from the people the charity is trying to support. That is 150% what is happening with Harry. He does not have that royal protection anymore. And Charles needs to put an end to this. And I think really the only way to do it is to really remove Harry from the royal fold. He can't go quietly. You're going to have to force him.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more because Brittany, earlier in the day, it had been just as gauche because he flew in to London and then immediately briefed that he was heading to St. George's Chapel to pay tribute to the late Queen Elizabeth II. Of course, that was just 8 miles from where Prince William was. And if you look at the front pages, Brittany, of all of the major British newspapers today, of course, that then gave the headline, didn't it? Because it was making it so clear that Harry was so close to them, but not actually meeting them. At the same time, unfortunately, it also overshadowed what was a lovely, pitch perfect royal engagement, Brittany, between Prince William and his wife Catherine, which was unexpected at the Sunningdale branch of the Women's Institute. You posted on this, it's typical that the only family members Prince Harry seems to care about and shows respect to are those who have already died. It's easiest for Harry as they don't talk back and can't call him out for his despicable behaviour. He should have tried respecting his grandmother when she was alive, rather than after her death, and should focus on respecting his father now instead. I couldn't agree more with that. And I did find the whole thing really, really grim.
Yes. And Harry, in this instance, we understand why he wants to pay respects to his grandmother, but this constant need of Harry to announce everything he's doing, again, like a royal, is completely and utterly unnecessary. If he wants to pay his respects privately, do it privately. And again, when it comes to Harry, what you see is he constantly uses his mother to justify his actions. Oh, my mother would have wanted this. Oh, my mother would have done this. He does that numerous times. And then with his grandmother, he tends to, let's say, show respect and deference to her. But with both of these women, sadly, they have passed. And so they can't talk back. They're very convenient for Harry to use in many ways because they don't talk back to him. And Harry knows if he has a conversation with his father or his brother, they're going to call him out, and he can't stand that. And Catherine and William were doing an amazing engagement. It was all over social media at this Women's Institute, and it looks like they had a fabulous time. And this is what royals do so well. And Harry, again, it's sort of like having a competitor in brand that's using basically your same branding, same everything to compete with you. That's what Harry's doing. And the royals, just like any business, need to take that threat seriously and figure out a way to get rid of it. And I think, again, they should take Harry a bit more seriously, because I imagine more of this is coming from Harry because it's all he's got.
And there were actually some lovely moments between Catherine and William. But again, Brittany, it's how the royals should do it. It's not standing up, making it all about myself. It's having some nice dialogue with the members of the Women's Institute who asked questions and they responded, which is how we get the little tasters. There's a funny little moment that I'll play you first about William liking his brownies in a particular way. And then he talks about Louis and the differences between Louis and George. But really, it's just an age thing. Watch this.
I know my brownies. My name's very fussy brownie. Very fussy brownies. You didn't put nuts in them, so no, I don't. You never put nuts in a brownie. I had to learn the hard way. We've had a lovely time. Is Louis a pound? He is. He's a character, but he's very good for it. He likes to watch brothers and sisters. They have. When George is behind closed doors, it's completely different ballgame. George just knows how to behave. I think Louis doesn't know how to behave. There's 5 years between them. I think you'll see the difference.
And Brittany, I thought that was a really fair point from William. A lot of people were suggesting actually he's trying to be very fair to Louis and not allowing this public perception to take hold that he's completely out of control, because actually there is 5 years difference between them.
Yes, it's actually a great thing as a father to do. And I think very conscientious of not letting, let's say, some narratives in the media define Louis, not only now, but in the future as well. And he is a little boy. He is rambunctious. And yes, you have sort of family dynamics in play. Usually the oldest children are maybe a bit more stoic, a bit more, following mom and dad's instructions and those sorts of things. And the younger ones tend to, not all the time, can be a little bit more rambunctious because they want to, tease and needle their older siblings. And so I feel like William handled that exceptionally well. And again, shows as a father, he's really, really wanting both of his children to get off on the best foot. And yeah, we see probably, I'm sure, a very different view of them in public than versus private in many ways. And I'm sure Louis is a ton of fun, but he's also, maybe a little bit rambunctious, but hey, that's part of the adventure, I'm sure, of having 3 kids. And it sounds like William just really enjoys the process of having these kids and enjoying his children in so many ways, and enjoying the very close knit family environment that he has created with Catherine, which will hopefully serve not only their family, but the British future in years to come.
Very well put, Brittany. And of course, if you do want first access to our Royal Uncancelled after show, twice the length of the discussion we've just had with no advertising whatsoever, then sign up to my Substack. www.outspoken.live is the address. Paid monthly members get first access to that Royal Uncancelled after show, either live or on demand, every Monday to Friday with no advertising. But the great thing for me about Substack is a free speech platform. It protects me from big tech cancellation. And if you are part of that community, you can message me directly, and it really helps me do what I do, which is my independent journalism. www.outspoken.live is the address. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.